Okay, we are live. We are live. Hitting it through the phone so we don't have any surprises. We are live. We are live. We are live. We're going to just jump into it directly. We're going to jump into it directly. And we're going to go right into it directly. So I can say, I'm going to give a few minutes and do some cheap talk until everybody comes on in. You know, yesterday I was too far away from home, and luckily I had my computer and camera to stop off by one of my favorite spots that I can record some stuff and do some work. It's wonderful. But I just want to thank everybody for being patient with me. And like I said, technology is a heck of a thing. Technology is a heck of a thing you have to master. You have to be on top of. You have to make sure everything's working. And then poof, the power can go out. You can get a glitch. Something can go wrong when so many different variables are in place. You have equipment, different types of equipment. Everything has got to be synchronized. But that's for me to worry about. I'm here and I'm going to go. Well, actually, I am. I'm not going to. I am. And I've totally revamped my work area. So I'm really good. And I just have one more component that will keep it foolproof. There's a solar charger that lasts up to 11 hours that regardless as to where you are, you have 11 hours of power on that. That's something I'm looking to purchase very soon. Not now. That'll allow for the flow of money to go in the right way. As you well know, we're doing so many different things. But I want to jump into it. I was just killing time to get some folks back in. We have more content, lots of content. I can't believe that this is the 31st of January. January is history. What have we done to reach our goals? January is gone. What have we done to reach our goals? January is one building block for the rest of the year. I look at it like a boxing match. I'm old school. 15 rounds used to be a championship fight, but now it's 12. And the reason why they did that was to fit it in the 60-minute framework of being within an hour, which makes it better for TV shows. 15 rounds went over the 60-minute limit, and it didn't fit where they can say we can have a boxing match under an hour or within an hour. We can have some intros. We can have them enter the ring, and 12 times 3 is 36, 12 on top of 36 is 48, the minute between each round. So 48 minutes. And then they have time for the intro, a few commercials, and they're good. So now we look at 12 months out of the year. This is the first round that we're finished. January is the first round out of 12 rounds in a championship fight that's your life. So my thing is, what have we done? Did we use this as a feeling out round? Did we lose this round? We have to be, very diligent in understanding that some of us relaxed or recuperating from last year. No, it's about this year. It's about this December, this July. I want to win this year. And I really do win symbolically every year. Yeah, there's one or two rounds you might lose. One round you might coast. But I'm going to win most of the rounds in the scorecard and be more determined each and every year to produce what it is that I have to produce. I think there's enough of us in here. I'm going to roll with this. Now, here we go. Look at that symbol. Have you ever seen that symbol before? Well, if not, there's so many variations of that symbol hidden on things, that toys, children's toys. And it may not look exactly like that. It may be that same little symbol unraveled. It looks like a clip. It looks like a pyramid. And they can make it round, make it look different. But that's a symbol to other, may I say it, pedophiles. Yeah. See, we have all this stuff going on now with the police, as it's always been going on, as it probably will always be going on, because they're killing us off slowly. If it's not that, it's the medical field trying to make us take substances in our body. If it's not that, it's just the stress of a collapsing economy. If it's not that, it's the fear of World War III, which is going to happen. It's past the point now. World War III is going to happen. Even though we have to call it something else because, as Brother Dave says, World War III already happened. Everything is already in position. This is nuclear World War I coming. And I felt that many years ago when I switched my locations to somewhere where no matter where you go in the world, you're going to be affected. The fallout, the change in the environment. But that is, who wants to be near an initial blast? So I'd rather be up in the mountains somewhere where there might be some inconveniences, but you can still live a full life. But the world's going to be affected. And I don't want to talk about this too long because I'm not into the fear mongering either. You live your life. Whatever will happen, will happen. If you know you're straight with your creator, if you're ready for the next level, fine. That's my main prerogative. And to enjoy what little bit of life I have left, whether it's long or little, this day that I'm alive, I'm enjoying it. And I'm going to go full force with it and make the best of it. But there's so much going on in the world right now that we tend to forget that there is a faction of our community bigger than what we understand and systems to support it. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about the pedophiles. Now let's see how this video gets treated because I didn't put anything of that verbiage in the title. I said the word. And these social media platforms are very careful in how they protect that faction of the community. They allow them to stay there. They allow them to operate. And that's why I say there needs to be on this new, relatively new platform that's very similar to Twitter. Many people call it the new Twitter. The new Twitter. And it's infested. It's infested with pedophiles and child material. I won't say the word, the P word. Because, you know, artificial intelligence has a way of flagging these videos. And there's no way with the amount of stuff being uploaded to YouTube every minute. I forgot what the number was. It's just some overwhelming amount. It's like YouTube is going to explode one day. And like I say, you know, we have to download our stuff and save it physically to whatever hard drive or device we can, because if a nuclear war goes off and, you know, the servers at Twitter get demolished, there's no more YouTube and all the work you've ever done is gone. So we got to think about that. I mean, in a post-nuclear world, doesn't really matter. I save my videos. You know, we'll be looking for water. We'll be looking for clean air. We'll be looking, you know, time. People will survive. The world will go on. And while it goes on, be distracted. Our children are our biggest asset that we need to protect and educate and give them the leeway for free thinking. After we tell them all we have to tell them, we have to let them go to become their own person. But before that happens, we need to protect them. And we think, well, they go to school, they go to a good school, they have nice clothes on, they have a nice home. I mean, for those who do, because there are a lot of children that don't have even the basics. And even they are more at risk because of the lack. Okay? And I'll tell you something. This is all over the world, because I've seen things here in Ghana, especially with a culture, and I'm not putting it down, but you know, I'm gonna tell it like it is, especially with a culture that is focused on money, the bad economy. It's a very bad, I say bad, but I mean, it's still working, but the exchange rate is really bad. There are not many jobs here for the common person who's working, who may not be super skilled, and the people are suffering. And there's a lot of money here, and there's a lot of opportunity here also. But there's a bigger rift. You can't say middle class. We can't compare it. But because of that, and the hunger for money, and with the people who are in poverty, there is poverty here, yes, but they try to paint the picture that everything is impoverished. No, That's why many people are shocked when they see that it's a comparable society to anywhere in the world. See? But because of that, when these young girls come home with a wad of money and their mother sees it, this is not every case, they don't question where it came from. They give them the unofficial A-OK on, well, you're safe. You don't seem to be harmed. Whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. We need money. And usually that entails some man coming around wanting to give the kids money, wanting to take them places. And many of the mothers are compromised, in a compromise where they should not be compromised, because this should not be a consideration, but it is. Yes, Master Glam, how are you, my dear sister? I'm working through the phone right now, just so there's no surprises, but that's just the way it is, you know? But, oh, okay, hold on 1 second, everybody. All right, how you doing, man? Thank you, man. All right, yeah. But the bottom line is, just had my dear friend come to the door. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, so let me come into the room here. So the bottom line is that they've gotten more sophisticated in how they move. They've gotten more sophisticated in how they operate. And it's not just some strange man in a corner with a trench coat offering candy to a child. They've become technologically proficient, even more so. And these are not dummies. These are not people who are so crude that their lust for something that is decadent makes them easy targets. These are very smart people, and they can be very accomplished. Well, let me tell you about this particular new platform. I'm going to read something off of this, and just a little bit. It may get technological a little bit, but I have to put it out there like that so we can understand what it is. Now, I saved an article over here, and let me make sure this is the right one here. Well, I think this is a short version. I think it's a short version. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Yes, yeah. Just keep it low. Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, here we go. Where is this article? Now, where's this article? Okay. Did I lose it? Oh, God, I hope not. I hope not. I think I'm going to have to go find it again. But I want to always come with the right facts. Yes, I lost it. I think I'm going to have to find this over again. Oh, man. Let me try this one. Let me try this one. And it gets a little boring. It's a little... Okay. Okay, this is not the article that I intended to read. And where is this thing going? This is crazy. Let me hit the back button. But it keeps going forward. Let's see where it takes me. Okay, it took me to LinkedIn. So, you know, LinkedIn is like that 60-year-old man who should be at home somewhere with his woman, with his wife, but they're trying to go out to the club with the 20-year-olds and hang out with a big gold chain around his neck, like in the 80s, with the shirt buttoned down to the belly button with a pot belly. You don't belong there. LinkedIn is for business, man. Now they're trying to be Facebook. Now they're trying to be Twitter. Now they're trying to be YouTube. And it's taking the flavor away from it. It's a business website where you can network. You know what I mean? And I just can't accept it. They have the right to do it, like that 60-year-old man. But it's just something I can't accept. Give me a second. Let me get a little sip of this drink here. Let me get a little sip of this smoothie that Mr. SCURV made for me. Hold on. My mouth, my throat is dry. Hold on. Woo! And she makes a smoothie and puts herbs in it. Fresh herbs, merengue and all this stuff. And this stuff is just growing around here so freely. And in the United States, it's so expensive. I'm sorry, family. I had to do that. Let me hit this article. Okay. This seems to be comparable. This is one person that wrote this, but it gives a lot of insight. And okay, I don't know what happened to the other one. There's one person wrote something here on a room on LinkedIn, and they said, I've been seeing a lot of people in the InfoSec community shifting over to that platform, meaning Mastodon, instead of Twitter. This is an interesting and informative article on an investigation on Mastodon. Reminds me of when groups migrated from WhatsApp to Telegram. However, it's important to note, and we have to remember, that Twitter also has a huge problem with pedophiles on their platform as well. Just wish that they would have said child sexual abuse material instead of child porn. You know, let me click this and give it a read. And the name of this is Mastodon, a social media platform dominated by pedophiles and child porn. Okay, now I got to deal with these pop-ups now. Let me see how long. I don't want to go too long. Matter of fact, this is like almost the same article, but just sort of different. And I don't want to go too long, but this is very important that we know this. Mastodon, y'all, stay away from it. Okay, here's a person who's writing it, and I'm going to read it just as it is. There may be some technical words that I don't know how to pronounce right away, okay? Believe me when I tell you that I do not want to write another article about pedophiles after the last one, but here we are. It is a vile subject to read and write about. The rabbit hole goes deeper than any of us ever want to think about. And when I say us, I really mean me. This will be the last article I will ever write on the subject of pedophiles and child porn. I feel tainted for having touched it. Introduction. Shortly after Elon Musk took over Twitter, some of the most influential people, and these things will be explained later on, these certain words you may not know. Some of the most influential people in InfoSec began tweeting that they were leaving Twitter. I don't think the reasons why they are pretending to leave are important, but I do think it is important that we take a closer look at the social media platform they are desperately encouraging their followers to sign up on so they can have an audience. In their haste to flee Twitter, these influencers set up accounts on a social media platform called Mastodon without knowing much about the place they were migrating to, okay? Or anything about the kinds of communities that call Mastodon their home. To be fair, Mastodon makes it almost impossible to search for communities and content across the Fediverse by design. So many of the newcomers have absolutely no idea who lives on Mastodon because they cannot see them. You see, this is very dangerous. Consider this article the first in a series of sec juice articles. I don't know what that term means, some kind of technical insider kind of thing, but let's look around that. Articles focused on the Mastodon platform and the communities in which call Mastodon their home. Now, there's going to be some technical terminology that maybe other people in the comment section later on, or even now, can even go in on. And I'm probably going to skip over this. This paragraph I'm slipping over. Now, a short history of the Fediverse. The founder of Mastodon, Eugene Rochko, didn't invent the concept of a decentralized social network. He just built his own platform implementation of O-Status, an open standard for federated microblogging. O-Status was built to provide an alternative to Twitter. But instead of being controlled by a single commercial entity like Twitter is, it was controlled through a federation of independent instances. So I guess this is why they call it the Fediverse, right? And this is very important to understand this last statement. I'm going to say it again. O-Status was built to provide an alternative to Twitter, but instead of being controlled by a single commercial entity like Twitter is, it was controlled through a federation of independent instances. So that's kind of dangerous right there. It's not one head, it's a bunch of heads. If this sounds familiar, it is because quite often new technological ideas are just old ideas wearing a new pair of shoes. Okay, the Fediverse that Mastodon users live in was arguably created by an American called Evan Prodromou, who was the first to launch a distributed social platform followed by the first federated social networking protocol, which over time and through various iterations evolved into O status before later evolving into ActivityPub, a social networking protocol developed by the WWWC. Let me see if I have to skip anything. Okay, there's a lot of technical stuff I'm going to skip. It doesn't make any sense. The main thing is that this thing is infested with pedophiles. The great pedophile invasion of 2017, okay? You may think a term like the great pedophile invasion sounds ridiculously hyperbolic, but an invasion is exactly how the Mastodon community describes it, okay? At the time. On April 14th, 2017, Mastodon users across the Fediverse started to see what users describe as a flood of child porn, federating across their instances, generating by what users describe as an organized invasion of pedophiles. It must have really felt like an organized invasion to the one-year-old Mastodon community at the time, approximately 160,000 users, because the number of people on Mastodon suddenly grew by approximately 140,000 users. They were an inch away from doubling the Mastodon user base over the space of 1 weekend. So there were already 160,000 there. And in 1 weekend, they get 140,000 users out of nowhere in 1 weekend. Now, when I checked my analytics on a particular video, and I noticed that a video is kind of going viral, there are ways of tracking where the traffic comes from. Even on my website, when I get a spike in hits, you want to know where everything's coming from because you want to emulate that type of activity and the volume. You want more hits, you want people and more eyeballs on your site. So these various heads that run Mastodon couldn't have been happier. All of a sudden, this flood of people are coming there. Is it a specialized type of platform? No, anybody can come there. So who are these people? And chances are it had to be a specialized group. So let's continue reading. Okay, even worse, on April 17th, the two largest instances these invaders lived on became the first and second largest instances in the Fediverse, overtaking mainstream Mastodon Cloud and the Mastodon social instances in the process, and making up roughly 40% of the total Fediverse population, or 50% if you included their rapidly sprawling network of federated satellite instances. In orbit around the two big child porn Mastodon instances sprung up hundreds of smaller instances containing an additional 40,000 users distributing the same sort of content. So somehow they had to communicate with each other. It's not like one person just found it and mysteriously other people did. So there had to be other platforms where these people communicate. You understand? This caused what was described as an unhinged hysteria to develop among Mastodon users because the new users seemed determined to flood the Fediverse with child sexual abuse material. Less than a week later, on April 24th, the total number of posts on the largest of the child porn invader communities overtook the total number of posts on Mastodon in its entire existence. Not only were the invaders hell-bent on spreading child porn around the Fediverse, to everyone's horror, they seem to be generating insane amounts of it. Okay, let me just see if these other platforms, now they're talking millions. Now they're talking millions. Let me read this paragraph. Flash forward to 2022, and those giant Mastodon child porn communities currently rank second and third on the Fediverse leaderboard in terms of user numbers, making up the two largest instances on Mastodon after Mastodon Social, which holds first place with more users. But they are the two most active communities by a large margin in terms of total postings, ranking first and second with 60 million posts each against Mastodon's social 40 million. So the regular folks like you and me, we're putting up 40 million posts, but on the same platform that has many heads and cannot be chopped down because there's not one person running it, the pedophiles are putting up and sharing 60 million posts. 60 million. So it's the majority of what Mastodon is all about. And I'm not going to say those who created Mastodon, they did this for this one purpose. It's because, unlike other social media platforms, you can operate in a way that can't be seen. You got to remember, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, they run their stuff and they can trace stuff and see what's going on in a nutshell. With Mastodon, it's like this. If you got bad roaches and you got concrete walls, the roaches are either outside or inside, right? So if you kill the roaches, you kill them and that's it. You spray them, you spray up the nooks and crannies in the other place, you got them. But with Mastodon, it's like you have sheetrock or it's a wood frame house where they can exist between the walls like termites. So if there's any little holes in the wall, they can get away from you and really fester up unseen. You can have roach nests in your house. And while at nighttime you see a couple of roaches running around, it's really hundreds of thousands of them in your house, in the walls. That's the way this thing is set up. That's the way that by not having one central head, it can operate that way, right? I don't know if I have to keep on going with this because I think I proved the point. Okay. Why can't you see the pedophiles on Mastodon? Because the search function on Mastodon is broken by design. It is set up so that new users cannot see all of the existing users, their content and their communities in the Fediverse by default. You have to federate with your Fediverse neighbors in order to see their content. And to federate with them, you have to know exactly where they are, or you will never know you share a platform with them. The founder of Mastodon clearly doesn't want search to work. He has made it clear that the lack of search is by design and not a bug. Here, he is telling others that the lack of search functionality is intentional due to negative social dynamics. So basically, okay, he means the negative reaction of Mastodon users when they see all of the porn and the child stuff on there, right? But he's benefiting from this. He's basically saying, hey, it's designed this way. You can't see them. It benefits many others who are not into this, who are not predators, who are not people sharing this type of stuff. It's almost like an upfront dark web. It's like turn your head, we know what's going on next door. We know what's going on around the corner. We know what's going on down the street, but they don't bother us. We won't bother them. And others who may come to visit you might see the activity that may look strange down the block. And later on next week, you see them hanging out over there because they're kindred spirits. So it's already a wrap. Now, this is what I'm thinking about. As they're sharing this child porn material, who's making this child porn material? Where is it coming from? And if you can have 60 million members of this platform sharing stuff, right? And it could be more than that. It doesn't mean you're on there all the time. How many times have you signed up for a social media network and never went back, or went back occasionally when things pop up on your phone? It could be even more than that, and it will be more than that. But the main thing is that since you can't see what they're doing, there's something bad about that. So why? Why is it that way? They can do it, but why? This thing is festering up. Is it material of your child on there? It doesn't have to be full outright sexual. I knew a guy who I used to work with, and this guy would keep a camera with him at all times. And I'm going to say it because they looked into him, I heard. But he drove a bus. He was about to retire. And he's been there so long, he was one of the top guys. He's got to be retired by now. But this guy would come back at the end of the day and show pictures that were seemingly innocent. And he was like, oh, these people, these young girls and these young boys are angels. And it was mostly boys he took pictures of. Now, when you looked at this guy, you knew this guy was a creep. I used to see him all the time, and I caught the creep vibe from him all the time. I never knew what this guy was into. But to me, the one day that I saw him, and I saw him kind of hanging out, and you might hear some noise in the background. It's me. But you'll hold on. Just taking a peek at something here. It's noisy out here. Hold on. Okay. I tell you, this apartment has become like a cave. I'm gonna go outside this whole life. I'm so focused on myself. I look around and it's nighttime. But let me make sure my internet is charged up. I'm gonna start walking around. Now we're gonna get down to it. Hey, listen, there's more technical stuff in that article. I don't have to read it anymore. We already know where we're going with this thing. Like, how does the government see that something like this is going on legally? There's nothing wrong with what he did technically, but it is a haven for pedophiles. And what I'm saying is that maybe he needs to make it where we can see who's who and aggressively target the people who are there, but they don't want to do that. Am I hearing Pizzagate? You know what I mean? It's like with that whole thing, this thing runs deep. Politicians, people in clergy, religion, and with a platform like this, would it make it safe for any politician, especially the high-ranking politicians, to get a different IP address and go on and I don't even say enjoy. I was almost going to say enjoy. In their mind, that's what they're doing, enjoying. But this is sick. I don't even want to say that word. Makes me look weird. But indulge in what brings them this sick pleasure. Why can't the government go in on that? Who are they afraid of exposing? Who and how many people in the government are already there? How many people and pastors, Catholic Church, all churches? Look at Eddie Long. He's my favorite whipping boy. Paid out that money, but claimed to be innocent. He didn't do anything, but you paid out that money. 25 million. And he's highly connected with law enforcement, highly connected with other pastors and other churches. Was it him that paid that money, or was the money paid up and given to him to cover the tracks of those who might be involved in something on a higher level in a sex ring? We got to think bigger. It's not just the dude on the corner that looks weird, and that dude that was on my job that was taking pictures of kids with the permission of the parents, because he had a charm about him too, but he was a weirdo. Oh, such an angel. Oh, this is going to be such a handsome young man. Yo, Negro, get out of my face. This is a white man too. I just called him Negro. Unbelievable. And again, we have all of this stuff going on. Cops always killing black men, no matter what the race. They down with the same posse. The war, possibly, the tensions, the inflation, all of the things that are going on out in the world, the fear mongering. And we have social media, and this is by design, but it's not giving us any pleasure. We're usually talking to faceless people. Now, I'm not throwing off at anybody here, because you have the right to your privacy, and you have the right that when you go to the beach, you don't have to go all the way out and swim. You can stay on the boardwalk, you can stay in the sand, you can put one toe in the water and go home. But everybody at the end of the day, no matter how much they indulged in going to the beach, they can all say, I went to the beach. Nobody said, well, you went to the beach more than me, or I went to the beach more than you. It's all one thing, right? So this is the thing. They need to launch something, but they're not. I feel they're not going to do it, because they're going to expose too many of their own people. And this is something that's dominating in a low-key, slow burn way. You know, when you have that pot on the stove and you have it on a low fire, and it's something that's going to be cooking for a long time, and you have enough water inside of it to say, hey, whatever it may be, that's going to last. You know, we're going to have it saute and simmer a little bit, and we'll let it sit there for 30 minutes. And then you say to yourself, you know what? Let me run to the store real quick. It's only 5 minutes down the block, you know? And you go to the store, and here's one or two instances, and you run into somebody that you know, that you haven't seen in a long time. And you don't say, you're so shocked to see them and happy to see them, that you're out there talking for 40 minutes, but you plan on leaving that thing on for 30 minutes. Now it's burning. It's not going to burn the house down. Or you run out and forget that or to bring your keys with you. And now you know you have something on the stove, but you're locked out. And there's no way, no other person, whatever, you're stuck. You see, too many times we get distracted, and this is why all of these things around us in this world today are distractions. Most of it's not going to jump off. You see, the world that we're in and these so-called leaders, these people are leaders and they got bombs that can blow up the world out of ego and power, and they're protected with their underground bunkers. And they know when something's going to jump off and they will be shuttled to safety, them and their whole families with the free health care and whatever the earth has to offer that they have set up. So they don't care about you. And the pedophiles who are there, they don't care about you. They want your children and they're going to get your children. And it's not even a matter of full-blown material, which is a concern. It's a major concern. But we have cameras now. We got creeps walking around the street, walking through the malls, holding their phone down. Look, let's get graphic without getting lewd. They have websites. They have all kind of porn websites. Porn is like off the chain. Whatever fetish you have, you know, it's there for you to indulge in. But you must know that they have websites called basically for upskirt material. So if you don't know what upskirt, it's very obvious what it is. It's looking up a woman's skirt. So you have these dudes with these selfie sticks walking around stores, walking around parades, public places. They are armed and ready, you know, with this long selfie stick and maybe a camera or a phone down at the end. And they'll see you leaning over a counter, maybe trying some perfume, or you're looking at something in the store and you're preoccupied and it's a little crowded, but maybe it might be slow this day and there's not many people in the store. So here this person comes holding a selfie stick close to them, and as soon as they get past you, they're looking right at you, right next to you, they stick the camera or the phone, it's recording and or snapping pictures, and it's facing up. And all you gotta do is lean it right up under between your legs a little bit, and they have sites for that, and dudes subscribe to these sites, and this is what gets them off. They masturbate watching upskirt photos. Then you have down blouse. You know, the woman bends over, and you know, young guys, when you see a woman with nice breasts or something, and she kind of bends over and say, "Whoa, look at that!" You know what I mean? There are people who they get stuck in that mentality where that's the thing, that's the fetish that they've developed. So the same thing with these children, and they have broken off categories with these children and having them do sex acts with each other. And it's a whole world. It's not just pictures of naked kids. They're doing sex acts, all the way from doing sex acts to each other in different groupings. I don't know how they arrange this, but it happens. You know, you got a lot of small towns. I ain't gonna blame the small towns because it's happening in the big cities too. But you got a lot of places that are off the radar, and people like that are there too, doing their thing. Phones, you can create documentaries with your phone if you have the right apps in it. So you don't have to have this storehouse or things on your computer. You can do everything from your phone and delete it, get rid of it, get rid of the evidence discreetly. And especially if now that they're talking about Mastodon, guess what? There are going to be people who are curious that go there, and you're not going to see the groups. You're going to have to forage around and find yourself and connect in some kind of way, which shows that there's an underground population of these people there. They always have been there, right? They always have been there. But you have people now walking around in supermarkets. Watch people around you when you're in the public. Watch who may be sitting off, you know, behind the rack of clothes, right there, looking through clothes, and you happen to walk by. They're not going to walk around. They may go in one area because, you know, you have security watching for stuff like this. They're watching to see who's trying to grab a child. Some people don't want to grab children. They'll look at them and look you dead in your face. You the parent, "Oh, good afternoon, how are you? Could you help me with something? What's your opinion on this?" And be that friendly person. So now that they're near you in the store, they have their phone in their hand. Who doesn't have their phone in their hand now? It's become normal now. It's become normal now that we FaceTime each other. We can hold the phone up. They could be videotaping you, and they're looking at their phone like they're talking. "Hey, you know, later on, I want you to come over for some pizza, man. We're going to watch the game," and so on and so on and so on. And they walk past you and you're like, that's normal. You see? If they did that before cameras were on the phone, you're like, what is this nutcase doing? you know, talking to the phone, holding up like that. He can't see anybody. Phones don't do that. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, Leonard, yeah. Greek and Roman type degrees, both of which are pedophile cultures. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And you know, it is turning into hell on earth. And we feel it, but most don't know it. This is a different feel. It was more joy in the world, even with all the bad stuff that was going on then, that's still going on now, but at lesser degrees, lesser intensity. And I'm really leading into, I'm not going to say believe, but feeling more and more that CERN really did rip a hole between the physical and the spiritual on a hellish side and release demons all over the earth. Because that's the way the intensity is even more. And these are unseen things here, but what's driving these people in this decadence? You just don't become this like this out of nowhere and then really get organized with it. And all of the things that are happening bad in the world, it's at an all-time high if you really look at it. But slowly but surely, it's been ushered in. So we're like the frog or the lobster in that cool pot of water that's getting hotter slowly but surely. You see what I mean? So that being said, we're unaware. And to further trap us, throw out more and more and more distractions. They got they got a TV in their hand. It's not just a phone, y'all. A friend of mine, you know, he's very thrifty, he's very frugal, but I know he's just damn cheap. I'm just being nice for saying that, right? So you know what he told me? I'm not saying you have to go out and get a TV. It's the worst thing, just like the phone. It's an addiction. He was always one who liked big screen TVs, but he's also cheap because the TVs are coming out better and better and better. He spends money. The next year, the better one comes out. So you know what he told me when I went over his house? And this was like before I left America. I said, man, I don't see you with any TVs here. He has his computers and everything. He says, no. He says, I don't need it. I said, man, wait a second. You used to always have a big screen TV. He says, all I got to do is hold the phone closer to my face. I'm like, oh, man. Oh, man. Seriously. So now you got a big screen TV in your hand. But that's basically what it boils down to. We can walk around. We can, during our commute, we can look at it. It's hooked us and we can look at whatever we want, just like these pedophiles, right? And I'm going to tell this story again, right? The North American Man-Boy Love Association. And there are people who are in the room who already know about that. But there are people out there that don't know about that, right? And I can tell you, in the 70s, I'm not as young as I look. Back in the 70s, I can remember this was 1977. I was 14 years old. And I was in Times Square, a decadent area of town that I loved at that time because of the establishments that showed all kind of stuff. And me and a couple of friends would always, and really in comparison, it was good, clean fun. We never went anywhere to rip anybody off. We never did any foolishness. We go, oh, look at that, look what's going on. You know, being an adolescent. And in New York City at that time, when New York City was the gritty New York City, the taxi cab driver, look at the movie. That's the old New York City that I know and I remember, right? From young and even younger than that. I remember it. We didn't have the Japanese cars that we have now. They were all American cars. They were all big, long gas guzzlers. And we had that gas crisis. And that's what opened the door for the smaller vehicles and Japanese cars to come in. But it was a different world then, right? And I remember we were out late. And there was a lot of trust. My parents gave me a lot of trust because I wasn't a bad kid. I was just nosy. I was just mischievous. And I wasn't going to tell my parents, like, I'm going to hang out with my friends. We're going to go to I say we were going to go to Manhattan. We'd always go and buy books or magazines, you know, decent magazines. We were smart kids, but I didn't also say we're going to go to try to slip in to this sex joint where the women are walking around naked. And because I got into bodybuilding, my body was developed, all I had to do was get some woman to give me her eyeliner pencil, and I paint on a little mustache. I had muscles. I put a hat on, walk tough, and walk in. The bouncers would let me in. So it was always that way. But on the way out, it was getting late. And here we are. It was maybe like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. You know, back then it wasn't like, oh my God, where are you? I would always constantly call home and check and say, hey, I'm here, I'm there, I'm all right. But the world was a different place back then. Even though you had to be careful, when you're that age walking around, it was a different world. Nobody really bothered you, right? Things happened, but nobody really bothered you. So before I got on the train, I said, hey, to the friends I was with, I said, listen, I got to take a leak. And there wasn't any restaurant close by or fast. There were fast food joints, but I didn't want to go in there. I was like, let me just let off real quick. So there was a doorway that was sunken in. So I went into this doorway and I took this leak. And there's a sign in front of me, right? And it was NAMLA. And then it had fine print below it. It was dark now, because it's nighttime. This was like some kind of little office. There's a little window inside the door. You can see there were steps going up. But this was an establishment, some official establishment. It had to be on 8th Avenue, if I can remember correctly. My memory serves me correctly. And 8th Avenue, right off of 42nd Street. So thinking back, even though we know rents back then in the 70s were far cheaper than what they are now, it still had to be expensive for that time because that was a prime location. It wasn't somewhere off the beaten path in some dingy little place. So that told me something, but I didn't know what it was. And I looked and it said North American Man Boy Love Association, NAMBLA, NAMLA. And I was always a smart kid. I said, no, this can't be. This can't be. You saw homosexuals who were flaming cross-dressers, transvestites walking around Times Square, men like that down in the meat district, 14th Street on the east side, where the cobblestone streets were and the meat markets were, all on the west side from way up in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, a little sparse from the 20s, but back down in the teens. As we got older, we drive around and see what was out there. Down in the meat market were always men, male prostitutes, but trans cross-dressers, right? We didn't hang around there too, but we drove around and I caught people that I knew down there too. I caught a guy from my neighborhood, caught him down there twice. And we were driving through one time. And it's like, these places attract these things. But for this place to be here like that, in a prime location back in the 70s, which means they had a purpose and a unified, this is before smartphones, this is before computers. And see, we tend to think like we tend to think, when we think in the past, we forget that these things weren't around like that. We forget to understand that smartphones weren't around like that, but we superimpose these things back into the past. So when you saw an establishment like that, this had to be something that wasn't easy to build, or if it was easy to build this thing, this group, this movement, it had to be really raw and organic. Okay, I'll put it this way. When I was in my 20s, I used to explore kind of things and freakishness and, go to these sex clubs where real people went in there and did stuff. And I was like fascinated by like this is what people really do this, right? So now it's commonplace. We have social media, these teenage guys, like, yeah, I saw one comment saying, hey guy, have you ever been in a threesome yet? No. I was one about 2 weeks before I graduated high school. 2 weeks before you graduated high school, you talking like this? You see what I mean? It's commonplace. But high school kids didn't talk about that. They didn't even know certain things. See? So, they knew certain things. They didn't have access to it like that unless they lucked out, for those who think that way, because I thought I was lucky when things were happening for me. I'm raging with hormones. I'm young, dumb, and full of cum. So back in those days, how did they meet each other? How did they extend and say, I'm a member of the North American Man Boy Love Association, and not get punched in the face by somebody? What do you mean man boy love? Get out of here with that. So there had to be special places where they congregated and they talked and reached out to each other. And this thing now with social media explodes. You don't even have to like leave your house. And you're right, Brandon. New York was very, what? Adult sex establishments. Yeah. And probably back in the day, as an adolescent and go into high school right in Manhattan. You come out of high school, boom, you're right there. Went to the High School of Art and Design, 2nd Avenue and 57th Street. And you walk across, used to do our homework in Times Square and come back to the school before it really closed up and put our homework back and hang out and not have homework to do. We hung out. In those establishments, I wasn't a kook or anything, but I pretty much, I've been in every one of them. A little background check too. As I got into bodybuilding, there were guys who, they had an unorthodox way of living, meaning that a lot of these guys were bouncers in clubs, maybe a couple of cab drivers, or not even like that. A lot of these guys put all their money into bodybuilding and the vitamins and mainly the drugs, the steroids back then, way back then. So that was expensive. And then the amount of food these guys were eating, they didn't have time for a girlfriend. They wanted to be championship bodybuilders, and most of them didn't even make it. Most of them got into their 30s and 40s, and they may look good for that time and may have won a competition, but how much money were you making? You weren't making money. You're doing all of this stuff for a $50 trophy, and you're a grown man with no pension, no job, no family, no woman, no structure, no foundation, no vision for a fulfilling life. That you get to a certain age and you realize, like, damn, I gave all that up for this, and now I'm 50 and 60 years old. I can't compete. I got injuries. So these guys didn't have that outlook. They just didn't give a damn. They took the easiest road possible, and that's working in these adult establishments and nightclubs, but mainly the adult establishments that I was friends with them from the gym. So guess what? I'm walking down the street. Hey, Lance. And this is back like in the late 70s. Hey, what's up, Charlie? Hey, what's up, John? Hey, man, come on and hang out with us for a while. So I wasn't a guy who went in there because I knew what went on in all these places. I done explored, looked and peeped. After a while, you're not even paying no mind, but you have a chance to hang out with somebody in one of these places. And you're talking about training, you're talking about different things. You're by the door, and you get to know the girls. They're coming in for work. They have their sweats on, you know, baggy stuff, a cap pulled over, their hair is pushed up, you know, no makeup. You know, they want to navigate the streets and not be noticed. They're not walking around like that. And when they get there, now here come, you know, the thongs and the high heels and the fishnets and the makeup and the push-up bras, all that stuff, the lights in there, you know. So when they come back out, you know, they're like, hey, I want you to meet my friend Lance. Oh, Lance, hi, how are you? This guy's a good guy. When you see him, you know, he's cool. You know, you'll want to hang out sometime, whatever. I got myself into a lot of things that maybe today couldn't have happened because a lot of those girls weren't on drugs. A lot of those girls weren't cokeheads or crackheads. This is before crack came out. So in the Times Square area, in these adult establishments, I had a very unique outlook from young. These places were some places, well, let's hurry up and go in there. I don't want nobody to see me going in there. I had dudes I knew all up and down these places. They were telling me things that was going on. I was meeting people in the neighborhood, guys that were in the street who were selling drugs. You know what I mean? You get to know them. Some very interesting characters in the future. I'm going to, you know, talk about it. Sister J is going to talk to me about New York City. She's going to interview me. And I can talk about New York City, but her to ask me questions would help me to go back even deeper. We're going to do it soon. We talked about it. Whenever she's ready. She's very busy. But these places, it brought people there. So I was trying to think that it wasn't what I was thinking about, North American Man Boy Love Association, but it was like, it's got to be that. So now New York City has a newspaper called The Village Voice. Many of you from New York City may know it. It goes back. I know it was around in the 70s, but maybe it was around earlier than that. Who knows? Maybe the 50s, 60s. I want to research that. When did The Village Voice start? And it was known as the alternative New York newspaper and beyond. Sometimes Jersey, Connecticut, different things, the tri-state area, but mainly New York City. There's a wonderful paper, and I still think they have it. I think maybe it might be just an online offering. I'm not sure. If anybody knows, you know, let me know. Here's the thing. Alternative. It fascinated me because it caught the essence of New York City as it was, as opposed to the Daily News or the Post or the New York Times. They can't talk about certain things. And the ads in the back were fascinating because this is before the internet. You had ads for massage parlors, you know, prostitution, but they didn't say prostitution, of course. But you saw by the way the ladies were dressed, and you saw that they had all this gay stuff back there. So, yo, you know, This stuff has always been out there. This is nothing new. Now let's jump on the gay side for a second. You had all these ads with these dudes who are muscular and spend time and happy endings, and you know happy endings means an orgasm. It's funny because I was playing Sharon Brown, I Specialize in Love. That's a song from back in 1982. And that's a special song for me. I'm jumping all over the place, but I'm gonna come back to the point. That's a special song for me because I was coming from the gym one night and I rode my bike in from Queens into Brooklyn to train. And I was in a cutting phase of, there's a competition coming up. So I wanted to do more, cardio at the time, in addition to the weight training. So after the workout was over, we trained long, it was like midnight. And my friend Gene, he would ride. He was already in Brooklyn, but he had a little distance to go because Brooklyn's big also. So I'm riding back into Queens, and where the gym was on the edge between Queens and Brooklyn, but it was far away. It was like way, way, way away. There were other parts of Brooklyn that were closer to Queens, more so than the part that I was in. So after he turned the corner, I jumped on the bike and the tires wouldn't move. And I couldn't figure out why the tires were stuck. Was it the chain? Was it this? Somebody did something to my bike when I was in the gym. I could not ride that bike. I had to put it over my shoulder, right? And walk all the way home. And it took hours for me to get home. And I had to be strong because that was a heavy old time bike. It was a tank. So I kept hearing the song, I Specialize in Love, as people drove by. So that's what I associate with that. So I heard it the other day and I was playing it and she said something about a happy ending. And I'm like, I knew what she meant by that. But people were more subtle back then. People were more low key. We had the same things going on back then, but it was more low key. Everything you see now that's out in the open was going on. But my thing, they didn't have the advantage of social media and smartphones and these apps directly made for certain hookups. Directly made for certain hookups. Even me here in Accra, Ghana, I'm on Telegram, right? And you get these local girls who just reach out to you randomly. And they have fake pictures that are not really them. Bent over. This girl contacted me on Telegram and I looked at the profile picture, it was an ass. Like, damn. How do you just put your ass first in the profile picture? Like, we know what it is. And Telegram has a feature, whether you know it or not. If you go on Telegram, if you have Telegram, you go up in the upper left-hand corner and hit the drop down, and then it may say people nearby. This is crazy. Hit that. And you'll see all the people who are on Telegram close to you. And they'll tell you the distance, whatever. Like, this person's like around the corner. They don't say around the corner, but so much of a distance, And it's crazy. Then you see this, or you go to the mall and hit that. You'll see people who might be standing next to you in line. You'll see people in the food court. Like, wait a second, and this is where they live, and this is what they're all about, and this are videos of them. It's crazy. This thing is made to push people together and to get into all these things. Like I said, just the other night, this girl reached out to me and had a profile picture of an ass. So I, hi, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, this chick is probably like 2 blocks away from me. This is crazy. Anyway, getting back on point. In the Village Voice, I see an article on NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association. And it's a group that feels that the best relationship basically is a mature man and a younger guy. We're not talking like I'm a mature man of 50 and the younger guy is 25, right? No, I'm a mature man of whatever age and the boy is 12, the boy is 14. They don't say 10 and 8 and 9, but people push things like that. I have a friend of mine who all his life, he only dated 18 and 19-year-old young ladies. Like, okay, if you're 22, 21, you know what I mean? Once you get to 25, okay, 30, and this is what he did. Now he's over 60 years old. And he's looking at 19 and 18-year-olds. 20 is too old for him. So I'm going to say it the street way. So, what happens if a young lady is 17 3/4? What happens if the young lady is 16 and a half, but developed like a grown woman, and you only focus on young girls? So what happens if there's a 15-year-old coming around you, built like a grown woman, and nobody else is around, and she's flirting with you? See, you got to be careful. Oh, it's only 18. He's only, nah. How many of us can resist the urge to eat an extra cookie when we're on a diet? Well, we're going to eat six cookies to treat ourselves. but there's a whole bag over there, and then there's nobody looking, and you want more. And you eat the whole bag of cookies. I did this just this one time. I'm not a bad person. I have discipline. But you did it the one time. One time, 50 times, 250 times, it doesn't matter. You do something one time with somebody underage, you still a pedophile. And just think of the people who never did anything, but they have it in their mind. And just like they say they have gateway drugs, where, oh, I try a little marijuana and that's it. And some people try marijuana, now they want cocaine, now they want this, now they want crystal meth, and they have all these extremolies and all this stuff. It's never really where you stick to one thing. So what happens when you get and start to indulge in things that are offered up to you mentally that you never thought about on a porn site? What about the dudes that focus on porn that involves teens? Little girls that are of age legally, but they look like a little girl. We all know them little skinny white girls that, how old are you, like 17? Oh no, I'm 24. I'm 22. Like what? They already don't have no ass. They already don't, and you have some who are a little heavy, whatever, but still you have these girls that in the porn industry are very precious because they can emulate child porn, but they're not underage. So they go to the top of the line. They're most desirable, whatever their race is, it doesn't matter. You look underage, but you're of age. Many people don't understand this. And I've been around the industry, not in it, but I was in it a little bit. I took a lot of pictures and got paid for it when I had a nice body. But I got to talk to other people to understand what was going on. And I almost decided to go into it as far as the movies are concerned. Straight stuff, right? And I found out the hard way. And I'm gonna tell you a real story I told before. But anyway, those girls, when they have these barely legal websites, they can't say underage because now you're promoting something that looks a certain way, even if the chick might be 21 or 22 years old. I'll get back on to the other stuff. I'm just ranting right now. We're having a regular conversation. So they put on the little pigtails. They're already skinny. They're already flat. No breasts to kind of emulate the look of an underage girl. You see what I mean? They're not going to have any underage looking or barely teen looking porn with a chick with double D's. No, they want that look. They want that kid look. And there are a lot of men who specialize in that. Forget the porn, who like that look for a chick who is legal, right? But in the back of their mind, they're getting off on the fact that they fantasizing that it's somebody younger than that. Now, for them who never did anything, you can't always prove it. You can be in love with somebody who looks that way and you're not pedophile minded, granted, but you have to really look. And everybody's suspect. Everybody's suspect. I have girls, as children, they're grown. But when they were young, they never sat on my lap. If they sat on me and I'm sitting down, it would always be at the end of my knee. And you're not opening your legs and sitting down on my knee. You're keeping your legs closed and you're turning sideways away from. There was no thought in my mind for that stuff. But the reason why I did that is because I did not want them to get used to sitting in any man's lap, not even their fathers. Not even their fathers, nobody. And if any friend or family member came around and, I trust them, but if they said, I pull them to the side, I wouldn't make my child feel like they did something wrong. I say, listen, I'm not saying it's you. I just don't want my daughters to get used to sitting in any man's lap. Some got mad. I'll never do that. I said, I'm not accusing you of that. I don't allow it even for myself. And most of the time, it's not like I'm sitting with some robe and my leg is, no, I've got my pants on. No underwear, none of that. You're sitting on dungarees, you're sitting on jeans, you're sitting on something on my knee sideways. I'll bounce you on my knee, but you're not straddling it. We have to be very careful on how we imprint our children and how we slowly introduce them to looking at certain things that will bring up red flags without scaring them. We don't want to make them paranoid and think every man is some monster that's going to get, no, we don't want that either. But as they can handle it, you want to make them aware. You want to make them aware of these things, and parents need to speak about this. All these parents out here who are online looking at gossip all day or most of the day, you need to be educating yourself and say, hey girl, and Kanye West got him a white girl, another white girl, he just got married again. I don't know how Kim gonna feel it. Who cares? They don't care about you. They got their money already. They don't know you. They don't give a damn about you. You can die and it's not even gonna be a speck of a thought in their consciousness. You better concern yourself about you and yours, your family, your children. You see what I mean? And some of these dudes, they will look you dead in the eye and be cool with you as a man just to get around your daughters or your boys, because it is such what I've learned is it's such a powerful thing for them. You know, it's a powerful thing for them, and they can't help it. And they will take their time, years, to get that moment that your child is sleeping on the couch and you go out the room and you walk up the steps and they can put their hand, not even touching them between their legs, or just put their hand on the backside, do this or do that, or even worse. I've heard stories because, you know, doing what I do over the years, people reveal things to me and share things with me, and they tell me some nitty gritty things. And they're like, listen, Lance, don't share this. Some say, keep my name out of it, but you can share it. I said, even if I share it, there's no need for me to say what state you live in, what city you live in, whatever. I'll just say it plain. There was a man whose brother would always come around there, as he always did over the years. And as this man started to have children, you know, it was natural. He was always there anyway, even before the children were made and the wife and everything. He didn't have to worry about this man trying to hit on his wife. He had to concern himself, and he didn't know it. But it was funny because the daughter, and that's why I brought up the couch and laying down, sleeping on the couch when they left the room. The daughter came, Daddy, you were touching me funny. I was sleeping and you were touching me funny. And I was like, I saw you sleeping, but I wasn't even around you. So it didn't like keep happening, but there were different instances of things happening that she was aware of. And she said, and then she accused the uncle, like he was there in the room. I was sleeping and I felt somebody's hand. And then when I woke up, he was sitting there like he was innocent. You know what I mean? Watching the TV. So they set up cameras and they caught the bastard. You see what I mean? I know a guy who married this woman. They both worked the same job. And she had like a 2-year-old daughter. And the daughter took this man, the stepfather, as her real father. Even though eventually she got to know, and it was kind of early too. Maybe like 10, 11, 12. I don't know what the proper age is to say that this is not your father. Like if you're old enough and it happens, you divorce and you remarry, of course you're going to know. But sometimes we have young children who don't even know that they're adopted, or they don't know. And sometimes parents, you know, it's their discretion to tell when necessary, you know, and we need to have a discussion on that also and have some, you know, feedback on that. But he treated her nice. He groomed her. He straight groomed her. I mean, he did everything for her and nice to her and everything like that. And the mother had no problem when she was younger. The daughter was younger, leaving her at home because that's their home. What you gonna do? There's gray area all over the place. You know, I mean, every man is not like that, of course. And he played it smooth. And the stepdaughter loved the father. And he was Superman to her. He had a very good job, and I was on that same job with him and her. I knew him better, but he was a creep anyway. I found all this stuff out after I was out of that job, but he was a creep anyway. He was trying to sex down half the facility. You know what I mean? Which, you know, that's most men for you anyway. But there was something else creepy about him, something bizarre. There was one time I was very angry with him, and I was going to fight him on the job. And I don't do that. I'm very professional. I was drawing a picture, you know, at my desk or whatever. I got up to go to the bathroom and came back. The picture was beautiful and detailed. He came on there. There was a woman and a man in the picture. They were just like, it was a cartoon. They were talking to each other, but it was unfinished. But it was enough to see there was a man talking to a woman. Why'd this man go and draw a vagina between her legs crude and drew this long penis? Come on, man. You see what, and you know what I do. I was mad. But it wouldn't be worth it for you to get fired and arrested, you know, because I would have whipped this. You know, everything is sex to you, man. Because that's the way it was. He'd come around, hey, man, you know, there's a girl coming to work here soon, man. I hear it was a network of these dudes. And they weren't pedophiles as far as I was concerned, but this guy was. Because the young girl, his stepdaughter, around 14 years old, turns up pregnant. 15 years old, turns up pregnant. And she couldn't tell the mother who the father was. She refused to. She said it could have been any one of three guys, but she was never with anybody other than the stepfather. And he played it cool. Oh, he's taking care of the baby. And I couldn't believe it. And the wife was thinking how good of a man he was. How good of a man he was that the daughter loved him. But then it was a twisted thing because he caught her at that time, groomed her, you know, and trained her in a twisted, it was his own little sick project. And see, this is how some of these guys think. It's not like, I'm gonna come around and do something to your daughter and that's it. They take time. Some men will get with you as women. And I love you, let's get together. You end up living together. You got a couple kids there. It's not you he wants. You know, I'm not saying that's the way it is. He don't want you. But if he's that kind of man, guess what? The aim is on them children. Oh, they 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. Yeah, after a couple of years, they get to know me. They'll trust me, and I'll be in. Just like dudes scheme on women. That girl walks down the block 2:30 in the afternoon every time. I'm going to make sure to be there every 2:30, say hello, and just gradually start to work my way into a life, and I'll be between them legs in no time. This is how men think. It doesn't mean we're all predators, but the sex thing is strong with us. It's the thing when your mind is twisted and that sex drive aims at the wrong thing that shouldn't even be. And this is why you have websites and Twitter alternatives like Mastodon, where these guys can get on there. Unbelievable. 40 million people will post, I didn't know it was a day or a week, whatever. 40 million people give normal posts on Mastodon, and in the same time period, 60 million child porn posts that are there. And they set it up this way so you can't see who's doing it. If you ask me, they set it up that way so they can benefit from the traffic. Is there advertising there? There must be, you know, and you get paid that way. There's always a way to make money, but to do it that way is a twisted, sick genius. Genius used in a wicked way. You see, we see people who are geniuses and they do good things, but there are people who are geniuses that have a twisted mind, but we still have to acknowledge that, yo, this guy's genius. It's just like when they said Hitler, you know, they say, oh, he's evil and this and that. Earlier on, he brought people together. We forget that part. He was charismatic. I'm not saying he's great. No, he's wicked, but in the beginning, you never see this. The same way with those who are grooming young children. But North American Man-Boy Love Associate, this thing is entrenched. Don't think when they take one example of one pedophile and hold them up to be hung, even though they don't hang them, they'll put them in jail, put them in prison, that we focus on that. Good, that guy's a creep. And you'll have a dude on your job next to you. Yeah, he's a creep. They need to get rid of all these guys. And that's the biggest one. You see what I mean? So the federal government needs to look in on a site like this that's helping to fester up these things. If you're a person who views this material, it's just a matter of time before, if an opportunity comes, it may tempt you to want to do something in real life. That's the way it is. You keep seeing certain foods on the commercial. Here you are, get ready to doze off to go to bed early. You got to go to work the next day. You got the TV on. You're going to fall asleep in front of this TV. And guess what? Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh, man, the Colonel. We got a new special on with the buckets. And you don't want to cook the next night. They got the jingle going on with it. You know what I mean? You singing the jingle, whether it's McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Denny's, whatever restaurant it may be, fast food joint or whatever, and you singing the jingle. You just seducing yourself and brainwashing yourself for these people. This is why they construct commercials this way. And sex sells. And guess what? The whole pedophile symbolism. It's there for those. I've seen this in lots of things in advertisements and even some minor products. Like, yo, check this out. And it might be altered. It's been proven that there's a lot of symbolism in Disney movies, and Disney focuses on the children. You've seen the videos where they have certain genitalia and penis, right? Big ass penis right there. But it might have branches coming out of it and leaves. But at the base of the trunk of the tree, you see balls. And then you see this thick trunk and you see lines going up. It's veins. And at the top of it somewhere in there, you see a little fireman helmet, which is the head of the penis, right? So it's crazy. And you can't see it. It's hidden in plain view, but those who are looking for that, and I'll tell you another one, and I'm going to wrap it down. They had a water park in Orlando called Wet and Wild. And it was on International Drive and Universal, God, what was that street? What was that street? This is SCURV. You remember Wet and Wild, right? It was on I Drive. What was it? Main Street, Universal Road, Universal Boulevard? Boulevard, right? Okay, major intersection. If you've ever gone to Orlando and drove around, spent a week or two there, you had to pass. Now there's a hotel, they tore it down. And being a bus driver that went down that route when I chose to, because I didn't always do those routes. I did mostly hood routes. That's why I got all the stories I do about driving the bus. There were dudes that worked there, dudes that, had minimal jobs, because it wasn't some career where you go there. It's like a summer job or some dude in high school, college, and they have flexible schedules and, they take care of the towels, they take care, or you have to have a man that kind of hangs around the bathrooms now there when it was open. Why? Because the pedophiles would come in there and sit near the bathrooms. And they wouldn't do anything per se, but they were in their element. Because they got to see all of these children from all over the world. A lot of them didn't know the deal. A lot of some of these children came from places in Europe, in the country, and they were so glad to be in America. I'm just picking on it. It could be anywhere, right? Because black folks are still hip no matter where they come from. Like, why is that white man looking at my little daughter like that, or my son like that? And some of these people are so rosy and nice, and these guys, these grandfather types, and not just grandfather types, because you got dudes who are out of their teens who are down with stuff like that. It's all age groups. Don't be fooled. So they're there. They would never go into the bathroom, but some of them would be caught with recording devices and stuff. So they put up cameras in. This guy was telling me how, they had the security had to get these guys up out of there because they were taking pictures, of these kids coming out. And again, just like what I was telling you with the down blouse and the upskirt stuff, it doesn't have to be hardcore stuff. It could be just that your child holding your hand and somebody's acting like they're recording. When people pass you by in the aisle of a supermarket or a Walmart or Target or any kind of establishment, twist your head and see if they're really talking to somebody. Like when you pass them real quick and they're like, just pass you, flip your head back and look at their screen. See if they're recording on the screen or see if they're actually talking to somebody, right? That means they're recording. I've seen it on the bus. When I used to drive the bus, there'd be dudes sitting there with the phone in their hand and sitting in the front, and the screen is facing back like it's going to record their face, but they have it by their knee and tilted. So every woman's ass is on there, and they may catch a few soggy looking asses or man asses, but they wanted to get that chick they turn around, oh, look at this one coming. She got that mini skirt. Now, they didn't say this, but I caught a few guys and embarrassed them, because what can I do? I can't throw them off the bus. I can't call the cops and have them arrested for having a phone recording, but I would embarrass them as much as I could without me getting in trouble. Now, if I caught the pedophile stuff, that's a whole different ball game. I almost got into a fight with a guy who, he was a problem anyway. He was drug addicted. He was a bully. He was in a prison. I didn't know him when I worked in the jail, but you know that type. He was a bully and trying to intimidate people at the time. And this was an ugly dude, man. I don't look at men like that and say, oh, he's handsome or he's ugly, whatever. No, this dude was like, He had a face like a monster. When you saw him at night, it was so grotesque. He had a gargoyle-like face. We have to call it like it is. And he was always out at night, loud voice, hey man, so and so, and walk past it. Hey man, you forgot to feed that box right there, man. It's hungry. You know what I mean? I didn't, when people challenge you like that, you jump right back on them and speak with authority. And one little trick that a lot of people don't know, especially when it's one who may have come out of being incarcerated, and this doesn't fly for everybody. But there are a lot of guys who exist on a lower vibration. And I'm not saying if you were locked up, you are on a lower vibration, but there are a lot of guys who were, like, they concede to an aura of authority. That's why you can have a 90-pound, 100-pound female in a prison or in a jail speak with authority to one that they call an inmate, because I hate to use that word, right? But I'll say it now, but you understand how I'm talking, that they will tell the inmate what to do. Listen, Robinson, you need to go over there and straighten up that room, and you need and walk amongst them with authority, because you have that authority. Now, when they get out, they walk around and, yeah, I can intimidate this person. Yeah, now I'm out. You ain't no officer type thing. But when you stand up straight and you look them dead in the eye and speak clearly, you need to go and so and so and so and so. And they're like, damn, they fall into this automatic thing. Not all of them now. Don't try anybody. But if they try to cross you, you stand your ground. And usually they'll step back. It's like that puppy that you raised all your life, and they get to the older age and they're going to try you. Or like that son who you raise up, and as a father, he might try you. You're playing around, he's trying to really wrestle you down. You think you're playing, but he's trying to get some ground on you, and you got to put that man strength on him and let him know, like, listen, we playing, but listen, let me give you this. Don't you ever think about coming against me in that way. You see what I mean? It's a psychological thing. But this guy, I had to straighten him up, because he came on the bus, he was loud. People were coming home from work, and I told him, I said, we ain't going to play today. You hear me? You're going to sit. I had to treat him like a child, but he couldn't help himself because he was high out of his mind. So he was in the back, and he was arguing with some guy, but it wasn't loud or bad. He wasn't cussing. But when he turned around to this woman sitting with a 6-year-old, a 5 and 6-year-old girl between her legs, like she was standing up kind of, and the mother was sitting there, but she was leaning back, between her legs a little bit. And he turned around and looked at the mother and told the mother, your daughter can suck my dick. He said it so loud. How am I as a man going to allow something like that to happen in my presence? Man, I hit those brakes on that bus. I had to make a scene myself. I stepped up, and I didn't want to be on the cameras because there were multiple cameras on that bus. I said, I walked up. I said, I need to see you outside right now. I need to see you outside. This bus is not going to move until I see you right now. We got cameras on the bus, and you know why I want to see you. If he came outside, I swear that day, I went to the back where I knew there were no cameras, and I waited for him. I was there for like 3 or 4 minutes. And one guy came out and he said, man, he hurried up when you turned that, went around to the back, he hurried and got off the bus out the front. He knew, and he knew of me. I do not play with that. Do not do that. I will bust your ass on something like that. I don't care if it costs you my job. That's the right thing to do. And I apologized profusely to the young lady, whatever. And she knew what I was going to do too. She said, oh, I'm so glad. I don't want you to lose your job, whatever. I said, no, but I'm not going to have nobody come say nothing like that. You know what I mean? So there's just all types out here. And that guy had a pedophile kind of feel to him. You know what I mean? Because not to get off subject, and this is something I wanted to talk about too, and I forgot who it was I was speaking to about this. Oh, God. But there are men out here who, some of them who kill women, especially in the sex industry, like they're lonely, they're by themselves, or they get out of prison. And it's not a prison thing now, but some of them have done crimes. They're loner types by themselves all the time. And they get out of prison and they have their little rented room and they have a little job that they do. They live a nondescript life, but they frequent the titty bars, the topless bars, just the full nude places, the sex establishments. They hang around prostitutes and they end up killing them and probably never even had sex with them. Some do. And I tried to figure out, like, why do you kill these people? I didn't speak to anyone like that, because there's one that I knew that did something like that. And he explained to me his whole story. And we're kind of going off into something else right now. I don't mind. But these guys, they get angry at the fact that a woman has power over them sexually in their mind. Like they get around these establishments because they want to be around a woman. They're not going to meet a decent woman, which would eventually evolve into the full relationship, which involves sex. They go straight to the condensed version of, and that doesn't mean it's not about sex with women. It's more to women than just that, but they want that one thing. And when they start to feel aroused, they get angry. Basically, who the hell she thinks she is for getting me turned on? She has power over me. Now, they don't think that, but this is what they're feeling, and they get pissed off. So this is why they'll see a woman who may not even be paying any mind about turning any man on, but she's just well shaped. She can't hide what she has in her clothes. She's covered. And they'll be like, excuse my French, look at that bitch. Who that bitch thinks she is? The girl might be coming from the job, not paying nobody no mind. Because you looking to see. You're sexualizing the woman and get mad that you're getting turned on because of something twisted in your mind. You see what I mean? So you got to be careful of all the types that are around you. They will smile in your face. They'll get near you, or they always stay near you. I knew of some men that would follow women home, not directly, but there were times I've had to tell some women, like, you know, over the last 3 weeks, like certain creeps that I knew were creeps that were confirmed creeps, and some that I because these guys, I knew where they got off, what stop they got off. And so sometimes these guys would ride way past they stop and get off, or watch this woman get off at a certain stop. So what would they do? They would ride the bus before or the trip before and get off at the next stop from where that young lady, chances are when she gets on, maybe she called off and she's not there. But now he's already off the bus, looking at his watch on the corner, wearing something different, hiding his face, a hoodie or whatever, because he's now seeing where she goes. If he's on the bus with her the first time and sees her go down the block, he'll stay. The next 2 days he comes back, he's already there and down the block waiting further and further until he finds out where she lives, until he's in the dark hallway waiting. Because you know, Florida, they have those open hallways and stuff. You can just walk right on in and go right up to the door or right up on the stairwell, and you hear things happening. And I've seen this pattern with different people, and I've had to tell women, like, this guy, I think he's kind of following you. And they're looking at me with a screwed up face. I'm like, listen, I see this every day. I know the rhythm of the streets. You see the pedophiles, you know who they are, the pickpockets, the crackheads, you know, they had a crew of deaf mute young ladies that would hang around downtown and do the sign language, about 5 of them. Well, you know, they were prostituting. They had this place where they lived, this home, this house, some program. They were down there hoeing. Because one of the girls came on to me. She knew I had a long layover on the bus, and she sat in the front and she doing sign language. I was like, listen, I don't know that stuff. Well, she did one sign language that let me know, you know, you take the hand like you're holding something. And then she wrote me, I want to make you feel good. She was really illiterate. Some trailer trash looking white chick. I said, well, you can make me feel good by getting off at your stop, because there ain't no action happening over here. I like you. I want to make you feel good. And they, you would, the bus drivers were like taking them long breaks and coming back, and I hear about it in the lounge. Hey, man, I think I'm into deaf mute girls now, man, because they can't talk or nothing like that. But boy, they, you know, oh man, I don't want to go there with that one. But yeah, that's how it is. So just understand that all in all, we got to open up our eyes more. Symbolism, the online experience, you know, and with our children, we don't know who's talking to them online. And I don't mean like, you know, I don't know who's talking to my 5-year-old. You shouldn't be letting them on there like that. But then you have them 12, 13. And then you have the children who are 8, 9 years old who know stuff. How many times have you bought a new phone and you have the instructions? You're reading the instructions and you still can't get it. And you hand it over to an 8-year-old who's watching TV. They take it and look down. Bip, 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 bip. So what name you want to put in here, mommy? What name you want to put in here? Bip, 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 and hand it back to you and never saw the instructions. because they're more tech savvy, because they grew up with the knowledge of these things and they're more intuitive with this. And it's the same way that these things can permeate into their mind. The fellas all remember when they first found a magazine that had a naked lady in it. You know what I mean? And how they hid it under their mattress and took it out at night. Big bottle of lotion right there. I mean, it may not be that like that for everybody, but we all remember what happened to us when we were young and old, bad stuff. You know, we all know. I always tell it. I have an older cousin who, when I was 5 years old, a female, who she imprinted me with things to this day. You know, so we don't know, and we don't know the histories of these people who are coming around, but they are bold. They will stand in a public place next to your child just to bump into them, you know, just to take a photo with them. And the photo is them fully clothed. They take it home and masturbate looking at your child. And they send it to one of these websites, and a picture of your child is circulating all over the place. They might Photoshop the child's face and put it on a different body. It's crazy stuff out here, y'all. Crazy stuff. I can talk about these things a million times over, but I'm going to get ready to go right now. I just appreciate you all for being here. We have more content coming back later on. I spoke to Mr. Political earlier. I'm going to get him on live later on, some recorded stuff. We put up a lot of stuff last night. It seemed like I wasn't doing anything yesterday because but no, I made up for it, and I'll make up for it more so. And Accra right now is 4:31. So it's not even noon on the East Coast right now. So we're living in two different, not just two different time zones, but several between us. So I gotta get my stuff together. I caught up. I did some work yesterday on the site behind the scenes, and I caught up to the stuff I was behind on. It stresses me when I'm behind on stuff, and nothing really stresses me, right? But I'm like, oh man, it's building up. I got new stuff I want to do, and the old stuff hasn't been taken care of yet. And in actuality, I still have some things to do right now, which I'm going to do and grab something to eat. And just want to let you know I appreciate you all being here with me, and just share and like and all that stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. for me, but 10 a.m. for you. And everything should go smooth. And we're going to make a crap load of content in between that time. Whatever comes, whatever happens. What is it now? Which one was it? Laverne and Shirley. One of them died. Was it Laverne or was it Shirley? I think it was Shirley. If you heard about it, confirm it in the comment section. And people say, well, they're white people, you shouldn't be talking. Look, those are shows we watched growing up, man. We could mention stuff like that. I'm still, black people, when left alone, man, we're loving people. I'm not saying I watch their show and I love their show so much. The only reason back in the 70s I watched that show because it came on as a spinoff, or really like right after Happy Days. Come on, y'all watch Happy Days of Age, just like I Dream of Jeannie, or, even Good Times, the Jeffersons. All those shows were like, we were kids, we were younger. We knew about racism. We didn't know about this stuff like deep like that, and at least those shows didn't really try to super imprint us with stuff. It was starting around then, but it wasn't as intense as it is now. But when you see symbols and you don't know what it is, question it. There's a site or an app that you can take a picture of something and it can kind of tell you what's behind that symbol. I do know, and I had the app on my other phone, that if you're out in the woods, you're out in the garden, and you see a plant that you don't know, you can take a picture of it into the app. It will tell you exactly what it is. And it was like almost 1 million different species of plants and leaves and stuff that it could tell you about. So, we got to use the technology for the good stuff, but we can't drop our guard. The subsequent generations of predators out there, they are more tech savvy than we are because it's their sick passion that drives them to do these things. So we're not aware of it. You know what I mean? And there's so much technology with these tiny cameras you can have in your glasses and your hat, pinned on you real small. And it's just crazy. Be careful in these bathrooms, sisters. When you go in there, look up in the vents, you may not be super private. You have workers that will go in there, maintenance workers, just any worker that'll go up in there and put a camera and come back in there later on and get it and just see everything you got. And I can't even condone that. Well, it's straight, they're heterosexual. No, that's wrong. You're violating somebody. Me, with all the craziness I've done in my life, I've never violated anybody, done something against their will. If I was with a woman and we did something far out, it was always consensual. It was always when we discussed it or flowed with it, or I would stop and say, hey, listen, this is getting kind of, out there. You cool with this? I'm not aggressive with it, but you seem like you kind of want this. Let's make sure now. I don't want nobody coming and trying to pull a Mike Tyson on me where like this girl from way back in the 80s trying to say that he raped and all this stuff. Come on, man. If you want to have fun, you want to do things, you want to experiment, because I hate to use the word freak, but we're all freaks. We're all uninhibited behind closed doors. What do you think about the stock market when you masturbate? Get out of here. You know what I mean? Oh my God, the stocks, they fell like panties. Oh, the stocks, oh, they're rising up. It's stiff and it's going up. No, let's talk politics. Biden sold this into law. Oh, I'm so turned on. Get out of here. We think things, the visuals, sounds, have fetishes. I'm cool with that. I'm with that because I got my own. But when it comes to violating anybody, I'm not with that. You know why? Because there's enough people out here who are adults who are willing to play and do the things that you like that get you off real good. I'm with that. If half of these world leaders were getting it the way that they needed it, they wouldn't be worried about dropping no nuclear bombs. They'd be worried about seeing further what's behind the curtain, behind that fetish. Come on. So, like I said, if you see anything or suspect anything, you confront the person, maybe not in a violent way, but yeah, if you're angry and feel violent and somebody did something to your child, yeah, take their head off it as long as you know that they did. Because there's a lot of instances where people have been innocent, a lot of instances, even on a gay level, where we see men who, yeah, we know he gay. And the dude is nailing. It was a dude I worked with, right? And he was like confirmed, like when dudes would say, yeah, man, he a little sugar in the tank. And he walked, I think that was part of his cover too, because he was always cool with the women, respectful, whatever. Come to find out he had like 7 or 8 chicks on the job. It's a big facility, right? On the job. And he was so gangster with it. And I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying this to be funny because everybody swore he was gay. They all knew about it because he was so nice. He was genteel. He dressed nice. He acted that way, but not over the top like he's imitating something like, no, not like that. But he had little body movements and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, but he was cool with the fellas though. But it was like, okay, we know he's like that, but we respect him because he ain't pushing up on one of us. Homeboy was wallowing in it knee deep. And the women were talking about him. You know what I mean? I'm like, for real, you mean him? Don't say anything. They protected it too, because evidently he was doing something right. And the whole world just knew that this guy was gay. Same way, you have people who act like they're all for the right thing and they're looking at your children. Who are these people on the apps? I wish I had a map where everyone that got on that Mastodon Twitter alternative site, there's a dot right over where they live and you can see where these people live. Like when they have the sexual predators and, in your neighborhood, if you want to receive calls every time a sexual predators in your neighborhood, let us know, and you can go on the map and see and what they did, their face and everything. They have it in America. Yes, they do. They need it everywhere. And there should be no secrecy with that, because when you ruin it, when you do something with a child, and even if you have that in your mind, you should have your ass beat. I'm serious. Now, if you're LGBTQ, whatever, you mind your business, live and let live. Don't bother me with that though, but live and let live. But if you got this in your mind to be looking at this stuff, I'm gonna give you a pre-ass whipping on the house. I'm gonna give it to you. You're looking at this, that means my children are in danger, because this is what you look when you go to the restaurant, right? And you go and say, "Ooh, a new restaurant," and you start looking on the menu. Ooh, hamburgers. I love hamburgers. You didn't order the hamburger yet, but we know you love hamburgers. Same thing. You looking at the menu on something twisted. So what's the next thing? You fantasize about biting into that nice hamburger, except it ain't a hamburger. That could be your son. That could be your daughter, right? So you looking at that and contemplating that. We ain't gonna wait for something to happen and damage our children for life. We gonna whip your ass. Yes, we are. Right to the point where you almost losing your life. That's the way I feel about it. That's the way I feel about it. If you want to be like that, drive you way undercover. But don't let me catch you with that. I don't care whose child it is. I don't care what situation, even right now. And then they may play this back and incriminate. Yes, he had this in his mind. And he would have, well, any judge who defends that, you in it too, Pizzagate, man. You see what I mean? Because it's big out there. And you got to refute and reject all of that stuff. And we have to research. We're not into that stuff, but we got to research that stuff. That's for the longest while I wanted to talk about this. How they're so technologically proficient and distributing this stuff and keeping it in their minds, and God knows what else they're doing with our children or trying to. They're fiends. So public places, watch them. You sitting down there, you so much into the food court and the food. That dude was sitting there not eating, no plate in front of him on a couple tables down, just looking around. He was there when you got there. You ate, made phone calls, hung out and talked for 2 hours. He's still sitting there. He got this phone in his hand. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. I'd confront the dude. I'm not crazy with it. Hey, man, you know, you all right? You know, there's a lot of people around here sometimes, you know, they lose their bearings. Can I help you with anything? And, you know, whatever. Walk up with authority like you undercover security. I do all kind of crazy things. I'm a know what's around me. I got a couple situations that I want to check around here too. Not on that level, but suspicious movements, man. You got to know instead of being a victim of anything. I'm proactive with everything. If it comes to my heart, I don't care if you don't know about it. I'm gonna bring it to your mind. If I see you across the street or down the block and you got kids and some man walking by all the time, like, you know that dude? He's smiling at your kids all the time. You don't know that. You in the backyard watering your plants. You got to be up on that. I'll call them out. That's my niece, man. What you know them? You know what I mean? Make stuff up. Do what you got to do. We got to police our own. We got to be in the communities what we used to be, especially as Black men, wherever we go. And we have to be the sentinels to make sure that things are working a certain way. Because we know that there's a strong male presence. They're not good, especially one who has a bit of aggression and that look in their face with, I don't want to mess with that guy. I don't care if you're a midget, a little person. When you walk with authority, authority works. Because none of these kooks want to be revealed for what they are. Because once it's out, it's never going to go back. And then now they can't do their secret creepish ways like they used to. But anyway, much love to you all. Let me head on out of here and get my, it's not like I'm leaving you because I want to leave you. I'm just leaving you right now because I want to get some work done and catch up on some things and set up the next shows, next subsequent things and stuff. Okay. So, I'm on the phone right now. So this music takes a little while to come in. So here.